President Putin has tonight accused Ukraine of an act of terrorism after a key strategic bridge built by Russia was badly damaged by an explosion on Saturday. His comments came after Russian missile strikes in the middle of the night killed at least 13 people in the city of Zaporizhia, bringing the death toll in and around the city to more than 60 people in the past 9 days. President Zelensky accused Russia of waging constant terror against Ukraine's civilian population. The missile strikes followed the attack on the 12-mile-long Kerch Bridge, which links Russia to occupied Crimea. Our diplomatic correspondent Paul Adams reports now from the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv.
In Zaporizhia, this is what escalation looks like. A gaping hole where once there were homes. Rescue workers searching for the dead and the living. Moments after the blast, in the middle of the night, stunned, furious reactions. They destroyed a building at night at 2 a.m., he says. They simply destroyed a multi-story building.
We ran out into the street. When we left the corridor, a neighbor ran out with her eldest son, and she screamed that her husband was dead, and the whole wall was torn out. Their apartment fell into ours.
This was a civilian area, not a military target. Volunteers helped to clear the rubble. Local officials say scores of people were wounded. This industrial southern city is used to being hit, but its civilians are now bearing the brunt of Russia's anger. More than 60 killed in and around the city in the past 9 days. Officials say 12 missiles were fired from Russian warplanes flying safely over nearby occupied territory. Here in Kyiv, President Zelensky said these were merciless strikes on peaceful people. This, he said, was absolute evil perpetrated by savages and terrorists. It all came less than 24 hours after yesterday's dramatic attack on a key bridge linking Russia with the Crimean Peninsula. Russia said this was the result of a truck bomb. Others spoke of an audacious act of Ukrainian sabotage. Tonight, Vladimir Putin directly accused Kyiv.
There is no doubt that this is an act of terrorism aimed at destroying Russia's critically important civilian infrastructure, and this was devised, carried out and ordered by the Ukrainian special services.
Some road traffic has resumed. The physical damage can be repaired, but this was a profound psychological blow for Moscow. Up above, work on the ravaged railway bridge goes on. Russia says freight and passenger services have resumed. This bridge is vital to Moscow's war effort. It cannot afford to lose it. Paul Adams, BBC News, Kyiv.
Well, Ukraine says Moscow is targeting civilian areas because its forces are unable to respond on the battlefield. In recent weeks, Ukraine has managed to regain some territory in the south and the east, including the strategically important town of Liman. Our defence correspondent Jonathan Beale reports now from the front line just beyond Liman.
Ukraine's still advancing, still hunting down Russian positions. Here using a drone to spot them. Ukraine's retaken another dozen miles of territory over the past week here in the east. But the retreating Russians are still putting up a fight.
It's quite intense, the fighting here.
Yeah. It's Russian artillery working now.
Russian guns haven't been silenced, but this barrage seems indiscriminate. The troops say, unlike theirs. They also see a huge difference in morale.
In Ukraine, we name that their army, it's meat. It's only meat because they don't save their people.
Do you think they're capable of retaking any of this territory you've liberated?
I'm sure that cannot.
Why are you sure?
Because they're weak. They're weak now. They're scared about us.
You feel safe?
Yeah, I feel safe because I'm on my land, so even the ground will help me.
This is the same ground President Putin recently declared forever Russia. But all that's been left by Russia is trash.
This was a Russian position, and you can see just the rubbish strewn around, rations. There's even a Russian cap here. There's something for artillery shells there, just strewn across the area. And the Ukrainian forces say that's what makes them such an easy target, because they can see this rubbish when they're flying the drones and spot the Russian positions, making it easier for them to attack.
You want to see Russian helmet? It's from the future.
No. That's a Russian helmet?
Yeah.
Ukrainian helmet and Russian helmet.
What's the difference? An army of future.
Of bad, very bad future.
Recaptured territory too tells the story of a depleted Russian army. Ukraine's now captured more Russian armour than they've been supplied by the West. Dozens more vehicles lie wrecked, rusting, destroyed. Along with discarded ammunition, the Donbass is also littered with lethal mines. But liberation comes with a costly legacy. Bombed out homes and ruined infrastructure. Downed bridges, stations without trains, and the remnants of a population now just trying to survive.
The people of Lyman, those who stay behind, have now gone through invasion and liberation and constant bombardment. Now they don't even have the basics: food, electricity and water. This is just a queue for bread, and there's not enough to go around. Winter is coming, and life isn't going to get any easier.
Katerina worries for her children's future. But more than that, she still fears what Russia might do next.
They have a lot of power, which is why it is scary that they might return. Because the city has already suffered very badly, and if the city will be passed back and forth from hand to hand, then nothing will remain, including people. I no longer know who to believe or not to believe. We just want silence, peace, and electricity at least.
Help is slowly coming. Here, a couple of volunteers are spraying over the pro-Russian graffiti. But it'll take much more to erase the recent past. And Russia is still at their doorstep. Jonathan Beale, BBC News, Lyman.
Let's join our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg, who's in Moscow for us. And Steve, these are President Putin's first remarks about the bridge explosion. What do you make of his language?
Well, first of all, Rita, the fact that we saw Vladimir Putin on a Sunday evening, that's interesting. That's unusual. That's important. It suggests, I think, the Kremlin wants to show that President Putin is in control of the situation, that he takes this attack seriously. How is he going to respond to it? Well, let's look at what he said. He called this an act of terror. And I wonder whether he's now going to reframe what he calls at the moment the special military operation into an anti-terrorist operation. There's been a lot of speculation about that in the Russian press in recent days. It's unclear, though, what difference that would make. We may get some clues about how he's going to respond tomorrow, because Vladimir Putin will be chairing a meeting of the powerful Russian Security Council, although not everything that's said at these meetings is made public. But obviously this is a tense moment, reflected by the fact that Russian state television tonight said that the world had frozen on the threshold of nuclear Armageddon. But interestingly, other pro-Kremlin TV channels were trying to play down the attack on the bridge, and one of them said tonight the attackers had planned damage on a massive scale, but they failed because the bridge is still standing.
Steve, thank you. Steve Rosenberg there, reporting from Moscow. And there are more updates, news and analysis on BBC News Online. That's bbc.co.uk/news, and also by using the BBC News app.